Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Modern Day Podcast. Just so you guys know, this episode was brought to you by Audible. For those of the listeners of the Modern Day Podcast, Audible is offering a free 30-day free trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. I think I got that wrong, but that's okay. You should check out The Man in the High Castle. It's a great book. This episode was also brought to you by Skillshare. You can use my link, skl.sh/moderndayjames, to get a free 2-month Skillshare subscription. It's pretty awesome. It's also brought to you by my patrons. They're really badass. They help pay the rent. They help get me cameras. They're really nice people. And all these will be available on iTunes and Spotify if you want to listen back later. In other news, we have some cool announcements. I have a online brainstorm mentorship coming up in January, which if you go to the Brainstorm website, you scroll up, look, you have the Foundation Mentorship online. You can sign up for that. Or you can sign up for my guests' lessons and classes. We have Hard Surface Design 1, PD1, and Entertainment Design 1. Are you teaching any other classes?
No, I won't be teaching any coming this January. I taught at Art Center like a year ago, but really wanted to try something different. So looking forward to the brainstorm.
Well, I didn't really introduce you, but this is our guest, Mr. Scott Zenteno. Am I pronouncing that correct?
Yeah, you are actually. I
Awesome.
didn't hit me with the Zenteno or any other variation I've heard over the whole lifetime.
Scott Zentini. All right. So yeah, for anybody that might not know, why don't you give a little introduction to yourself?
Yeah. So I'm Scott Zenteno. I'm a vehicle and prop designer for the most part, but I do some environment design as well. I work in the theme park industry for Stedman Design Studio, and then I contract for Rooster Teeth on Ruby, which is a really fun show. And season 6 just started, so I'm going to plug that really quick. And, go on Rooster Teeth's website, check out the first episode. You'll see a train. You guys saw the metro in the thumbnail, but now you'll see a train. So
awesome. That's so cool, man. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started into art? Like, take me back to the early days, like when you were maybe 4 or 5 years old or whenever you started drawing. How did you get into that?
Earliest formative memory is probably I had these like Dragon Ball Z gummy bears or something, and Goku or Trunks was on the cover, and I drew it and I took it to like my community of friends, and they were like, you traced that. I was like, no way, I drew this is mine. So that's the earliest time I remember like creating art, and then just drawing like Fire Emblem and stuff. But I actually didn't get that heavy into it. I got into music, which is really fun for like my teen years. And then my brother really got into entertainment design. He's also working in the industry called Thomas Zenteno. And he was always better than me. Not because of natural talent, because actually I think I was a little more gifted than him. But he worked so damn hard that I just like, I had to keep up. And we both ended up loving the same industry, so that's awesome.
Do you think that family beef pushed you a little bit? Where
for sure.
Yeah.
The way I say is like, hopefully I'd never like to pass him because he's a god to me. But he's like 2 years older than me, and I feel like because he's older and I've like gotten to see him fail a little bit because he hits things first. I'm like I'm 1 year closer than him, so I'm better than he was at my age, but not quite where he's at right now.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I love our brotherly competition is really good.
I think that's like I talked about it with Cynics a little bit, how that competitive edge is such a big part of development as an artist. I feel like whether or not we want to admit it, we always are trying to push ourselves further than somebody else, even if it's not done in the most malicious way. I feel like it's really helpful to have that competitive spirit. So it's cool to hear that that's something that inspired you to work at a younger age. So after you were done drawing Dragon Ball Z and Trunks and Fire Emblem, where'd you go from there? So you said in your teenage years you were playing music.
Yeah. So I got into guitar, but I always kind of like was like, this is never gonna make me money, and that's fine.
You're probably right about that.
Yeah, it still hasn't made me money, but I went to a high school after that called Design and Architecture Senior High in Miami, Florida, which is where I grew up. And what's really cool about that school is they offered like product design starting from 10th grade. So from that age in my life, I started doing products, and it's like a lot of shoes, cell phones, you know, stuff for our real world. And a lot of grads went to CCS in Detroit or Art Center, and I was like, this is cool and all, but it didn't feel very creative.
Yeah.
Like if you look at my work, it's a lot of floating cool robots and shoes, floating cool robots. So I went into Art Center for entertainment design, and that's kind of where it went.
Okay, awesome. So it's interesting that you talk about doing like real life products and stuff, which is something that I always emphasize in my in my lessons. I think doing that sort of legwork, for not to be make a pun, but doing that sort of legwork I think really helps and get your fundamentals of perspective and all that. Do you think that getting that mileage helped you a lot?
Yes, because in 10th grade, the final assignment of the class to like see if you're gonna do well and stuff is like draw a shoe, design a shoe, and then draw it in like front and back, perfect perspective, like perfect. Okay. And a shoe, if like you ever drawn one, you're like, it's not symmetrical. It's got all these weird complex forms. It's just this nightmare to draw. So our teacher came in after a week of spending time on that and tore all of our drawings up. She went like down 2 drawings. She was like, these suck. This one's bad. And she got to the 3rd one, and then she tore it in half. She's like, you know what? All of these are trash. And she just tore them all up. She's like, you have 3 days to do the same assignment by Monday. And we're all like, well, at that age, like, I don't know. It's you don't know your limits, so you're able to really push them. And that was like a really good experience for me to redo that, and it came out a ton better. It was less time, but it was drawing those fundamental like shoes and just really boring objects, but fully understanding them.
Yeah,
it's like once you get past that, a robot's actually pretty simple
and more fun.
Yes.
I find that like getting that level of harsh criticism really hurts, but it's probably the most helpful thing that you'll have in your art career, or just your development as an artist. I feel like I had this teacher once that she took my sketch and did the same sort of thing where she ripped it up, and you come back and you kind of come back with that fire, and you're like, no, I'm gonna prove them wrong this next time. Oh man. So all right, so you went to Art Center after doing that, or do I have the timeline correct? I feel like I messed things up. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and so how was your experience at Art Center?
So I came straight out of high school, which is, at the time, it was pretty rare. It's more common now, and the age line is kind of lowering. But I was one of like 3 or 4 straight out of high school, and I think for a lot of students coming straight out of high school, they shouldn't do that because it's too rigorous, and it's if you don't take advantage of Art Center, I feel like it's a place you go, you already know what you want to do, and kind of you're just sharpening your tools.
Okay.
But if you come straight out of high school, a lot of people are like, I don't know what I want to do. I'll figure it out over 4 years and like 20,000 times 4 amounts of dollars or times 8. And so for me, instead of like being high school as an excuse, I was always like, well, as soon as I graduate, I'm going up against 35-year-olds, 40, like Tim Flattery was our department chair, and he designed the Batmobile, and he's going to be my competition if I want to design vehicles. So I knew that age meant nothing. So it was really, for me, like pushing myself to keep not let everyone say you're good for your age, because I hated that. If anyone was like, oh yeah, you're like 4 years younger than most of these guys, but like you're doing pretty good, I'm like, I don't want that. I want to be just good, not for my age.
It is a little bit of a backhanded compliment.
Sure.
When you're like, you're good for your age, you still got a ways to go, bud.
So for me, it was really challenging, but since I'd have my work torn up beforehand, actually, I thought that Art Center was actually easier than I expected it to be.
Okay.
Just because like I had that blood, and my brother, again, he's the harshest critic on me. He would come home while I was making my entrance portfolio, look at the drawings I was doing, and he'd say, these all suck, they're going in your portfolio. And I'm like, I guess not anymore. And then he comes back like 8 months later from his next terms at Art Center, and he's like, you did these are pretty good. And I'm like, they're the same drawings, I didn't include them because of you. And he was just going extra hard to really push me to my heights.
I mean, he was just trying to bully you.
Yeah, probably a
These
little
look like
jealousy.
shit. That's what older brothers are for bullying you. Do you think, now you said you wouldn't suggest to younger students to go there like straight out of high school. Do you think that ended up being to your benefit, or do you think that was, if you had the chance to do it over, do you think you would redo it a different way?
I personally wouldn't redo it, especially because I was kind of, I mentioned Tim Flattery, but I graduated with the last class under his watch, and I really appreciated him. So if I had just waited even one term more, it would have been different. So no regrets there. And that being said, I think Art Center today, it's especially that program's restructured its whole like goal. Like they're aware that the age is lower, and they've changed their fundamental classes at the beginning to adapt for that. So for me, someone who did a lot of perspective and like, aced VisCom 1 at a young age, it would have been like really boring for me. Not to say that, you ever get too much of that stuff, but it's adapted to kind of meet the need of younger students. So I think now it's fine, but yeah. Yeah,
I think in general, because a lot of my audience, the big question is, should they, seek other options like Brainstorm? Should they take classes at Art Center and go in debt or anything like that? And it's such a big decision to make so early on. Like, I know from my experience, I went to undergrad for biochemistry. I was in a band, and I just, I was always going through so many different options, and I felt like, especially at that young age, there was no way that I could have made that decision. Now, you said you focus on vehicles. How did you find that? Was it because you were doing so much hard surface stuff, or? It's
here's the long story, Tom.
Sure, go over the long story.
So I was naturally kind of drawn to that stuff, like VisCom 1, and from my product design background, I had a lot of technical drawing skills and hard surface things, and my figure drawing was whack, and I could not turn a person in perspective. Which is what I got from Art Center. I filled in the gaps that I had, and I actually grew to really love animation, and like like, you know, more cartoony, more stylized, really expressive work. And straight out of high school, I actually got a job in that, but it was the worst working experience I'd ever had. Like before and after that, it was just literally the worst. And they were definitely like looking for straight out of college. I can pluck him and he'll work extra hours just so I could, you know, get everything I can out of him, juice him, and then throw him to the side. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna do what I'm kind of more drawn to doing, which is technical drawing as my career, and save like the more stylized stuff for my own personal work. So I have like sketchbooks on sketchbooks of just cartoony stuff that looks like, you know, it's really fun and expressive, but it's not where I get my money from. I was like, okay, technical drawing, I can do that and have fun all day and never stop doing that. So
yeah, I think it's fun.
Yeah, it's super fun.
Now, in your earlier years when you were learning, what was your study routine like? Were you doing just a lot of blocks? Were you drawing directly from reference, or did you draw from life?
Mm-hmm. It was the blocks for sure. It was the cubes.
That's why
I
asked.
Turn it into every angle and be able to not have to use rulers, essentially. Like get rid of that excuse and just be able to have your arm be a machine.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of that. I don't think I started like. That's one thing about Art Center and also Brainstorm and stuff is like when you take a class, sometimes you don't realize how much your skill's growing until after, and you're like, oh, I'm using the skill on my own now, and I'm realizing how much I've learned from it. So I did, you know, more cubes than I can count. I still have them. I still bring them into all my classes. I'm like, I did this when I was 18. What are you doing? So I have just pages on pages of cubes, and at the time while doing them, you're kind of like, you know, all right, I guess another one, and then you finish that term and you draw for yourself a car, and you're like, I couldn't do this before.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Look at that.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar experience where I didn't realize at all that I was getting any better. And then I would look back to like my older videos and be like, wow, that looks like absolute shit. And I was like, oh, it actually got a little bit better.
Yeah.
How did you land your first professional gig out of Art Center? Was it directly after, or?
Yeah. Well, so a lot of, I think the biggest importance is like setups and connections, and pretty much all the work I've ever gotten kind of stems from like seeds I planted while I was at school.
Yeah.
Like the company I'm working for now, the boss was an art director on a job I did in college. So it's like level 1, 2, 3. And you just kind of move with those people and their connections. So, yeah, out of college, it was all people I had met before then that I had done maybe some internship work with or some small freelance when they were in a crunch. And yeah, they just picked me back up. So that's good.
Cool. Yeah, I've kind of found that too. Like you meet one person and then gradually that network starts to expand. Yeah. For me, it was John. He just messaged me on one of my live streams offering me a job, and I was like, oh shit, okay.
And then you drove to California.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do find that though, it just kind of gradually expands.
Yeah.
Now, what is life like working in a professional setting? Do you mostly do freelance? Are you working in-house anywhere?
I'm working in-house. So I work full-time from 9 to 6 every day. At first it was super nice because one thing that separates being a student or like trying to get a job from getting the job is when you get the job, it kind of ends, you know, like 9 to 6. I know what times I'm going to be where, and, you know, obviously there's going to be crunch times where I stay later than that, but it's still, I can usually assume I'll be home at night. Versus when you're working on your portfolio, or when I was doing freelance, like being at home all day is just like, I guess I got more hours. I guess I'm still working on this.
Yeah.
And you're just, you know, you wake up, you work, you go to sleep, and you just do it all over again. But like I said, I started working for Rooster Teeth in Texas. And so now I trap myself back into the same thing where I'm like, I do my day job and that's 9 to 6. And then I go home and I'm like, well, at least I like drawing for this show. It's really fun.
Now it's time to freelance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find as somebody that works from home that you have to set like strict rules as to when you're going to work. You know, I set for myself, I have work hours, and then after that I chill out and play Red Dead Redemption 2. Great game, by the way, get it. And you have to kind of enforce those strict rules for you.
I could never follow them. I would just I feel like every artist is born with like this guilt in us that's like, you know, it would only take 10 more minutes and I could really do that. Yeah. So then you do it and then you're like, but 5 more minutes, and you just kind of keep compounding.
Our whole industry is built on the self-consciousness of artists because we're always like, well, I'm not that good. I need to get better. And then everyone's like, how many hours should I be working? What brush should I use? And it is that sort of it's just always with us. Like I know even talking to John Parkin, he's like still very self-conscious, very humble, and I don't think that sort of thing goes away, but it's also kind of what pushes us. How have you found that working in the industry has pushed you more from as opposed to being in school?
I think what working in the industry has like provided me is just you share. I feel like since you're less in competition for a job because you're already there, you're sharing information in a really friendly way. Like, you know, when you talk to like artist buddies after you're out of school, you get to like be like, oh, you didn't know this technique? Oh, you didn't know this one? Oh, you haven't checked that out? So it's like really sharing, at least the community at my office, which is very different than I feel most, but it's really creative and we're really like nice to each other. Cool. Like I think people is the most important thing. Like more than brushes, more than like anything else, is being able to hold a conversation and like be interested and interesting to other people. Just makes you way more invaluable.
Are you telling me that it's not a specific brush that makes all the work good? I was under the impression that I just needed a magic John Park brush.
It's called the circle brush.
Oh, shit. God damn it. I make that joke too many times. People are going to get tired of it.
I'm actually a big fan of the square brush myself.
The square brush it's a wonderful
underrated
brush. Now, all right, tell me about your music experience, because as a musician myself, I want to hear a little bit about that. Was this like something that was going concurrently with art?
Yeah. Well, so in middle school is when I got like stupid cheap Fender, you know, it was red and white and shiny and looked awful. But, you know, I think it's something that I've never taken any lessons for.
Okay.
And have you ever taken lessons for it?
I've taken, and actually was doing a similar thing to Brainstorm, but with music for a while. But yeah, I think I took lessons for like 10 years or something.
That's why
you
play better than me. But for me, it's always been like my baby. Like art is my career, and it's something like if someone tears up my drawing, I'm like, all right, I can work harder on that. But music's something that for me, it's just like nobody can critique me on it. Or not that they couldn't, but it's something that I've kind of raised myself. Like if someone says I suck, it's like, yeah, it's because I did it on my own. But I'm kind of proud of that. And it's something that, it was concurrent. I was in a screamo band during my high school days.
Awesome.
I did I was the rhythm guitar, I was the screamer, I was the singer, I was the keyboardist. My brother was the bassist. A product design friend was our lead guitarist, and then we had a drummer, of course. So I did that all through high school. Then my brother left to Art Center, and we broke up, and we was like, oh no. But came out here, joined one more screamo band, which was pretty funny because we got to play festivals.
What are the names? Plug the names of the bands.
Ooh, the first one is the worst one.
That's okay. They're always going to be bad, but it's fine.
I did not name this, but Good Hurts and Mixed Feelings.
Oh, that's so emo.
I know. But it was.
I love it though.
It embodies the sound pretty well.
Cool.
After that, Left in Embers was the next one. That was a little more serious. It's kind of got. What was the band you were in?
I was in Painted in Exile.
See, it's the something in something. Yeah. It's like
It's not. None of the names are very good, but that's okay. At least we wrote music and we had a good time doing it.
I mean, when there's people like Dance Gavin Dance, that's a dumb name, but it sounds awesome.
Yeah, at a certain point, it's like, I think what happens when you're naming a band, you're just like, well, we can't decide on anything, so fuck it. We're just gonna pick one of them, and at some point, you just put that on your your playbill, and then it just kind of sticks because then people start to know it. What was that like? You said you played festivals and stuff? How was that?
Yeah, it was super awesome. Like I did this concurrently with Art Center, and to sidestep a little bit, I went to this CTN talk once with Jake Parker. I'm sure you know him, father of Inktober and so many other things. He was talking about so this is what I'm working on now. And it was like he put a timeline together where he showed his Inktobers of every year. And he's like, so I started Inktober at this point in my life while I was working professionally here. And also I was working on my personal work and a storybook and a publication company. And it just like stacked together. And you were like, oh, I only saw on social media he was doing this one thing and saw he worked there. But really, he had like 6 things going on at once. And that was super inspiring to me. Yeah. So for me, it was like while I was doing Art Center, I joined the screamo band and of course was working on my personal work. And thankfully for that band, Left in Embers, I was the screamer, so I didn't have to buy and carry tons of guitars and amps and stuff. Yep. And they were like, we heard you play guitar, man. How about that? I'm like, no, I just want to scream. Please let me just scream. Yeah.
It's also kind of fun in that regard because you have this hobby that's still creative, but you don't have to get so emotionally invested in it. For sure. For me, music wasn't that. It was kind of that was kind of my thing I was intending to do that professionally at first, but then I realized I think it's a lot harder to make a living doing music than it is to do art.
For sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I think part of it is that like as an artist or a designer, you're producing a product that can be used for bigger IPs, but with music, you're just selling that. Yeah. And now you're not even selling it because people just stream it.
For sure. Yeah, it's a way big gamble. And like now at this point, I've when I got kind of out of college, I was like, it's too hard to get a drummer, like 4 or 5 people in the same room to make music. Yeah. And so me and my friend had an acoustic band that lasted all of like 6 months. It was really fun. But at this point now I'm rapping, which is pretty fun.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you don't need anyone. You just need to steal a beat off YouTube and credit them, of course.
You have to credit them.
Have one of your old students that was one time mentioned beats make you beats and be like, hey Rick, can you hit me up with that fresh new beat?
Oh, that's awesome.
And then so I rap now because it doesn't require anyone to be around you for it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're still putting out any music or anything, or you?
Yeah. You can check out some terrible music that I'm in progress on, but it says that in the song, so it's okay. But Sugoi Boy Scott on SoundCloud.
Awesome.
And it means awesome boy Scott in Japanese, but it also is a play on soy boy because it's totally cool to be one.
Yeah. Are you a vegetarian?
No, okay. I just drink soy milk.
Oh, okay.
Because it's better for you, and we shouldn't drink cows.
Yeah, I think drinking milk is kind of gross. Like it's super mucusy. You're drinking, I don't know, it's like udder milk. It's weird to me. I don't know why we still drink it. Although almonds, I'm pretty sure growing almonds has like caused the California drought. So
yeah, man, I've heard. I'm like, you can't win, but yeah, I just think at least soy milk doesn't make me like my stomach feel like it's about to die and betray me. So
that's awesome. Yeah, playing shows though, I gotta say, is one of the most fun experiences ever, and it's kind of one of the things that I miss as an artist, and I've been trying to recreate. That's why I do like live streams, all that kind of stuff, because I feel like, I don't know, there's nothing as satisfying as being on stage.
Do you still go to shows, or?
I still go to shows. Yeah, I haven't played much at all, but I want to get back into it. I'm like gearing everything up, my Patreon, so that I can like split my time between doing music and art.
Cool.
Yeah. I think it's kind of cool that you're keeping that balance though. You're still working professionally while writing music. How do you balance that time? When you're done with your work, is that your relaxation? Then when you write music?
It's super complicated. Like the first rap song I wrote, I had my artist mentality fully on. I'm like, all right, in it, I'm like, the album drops in March, and March was like 7 months ago now, and I've released like 4 songs or something. But thankfully, I didn't say a year, so March, it could be next year. But what I try to do is just kind of have something available for me to always do. Like I don't like being bored. I mean, nobody does, but I feel like I've set myself up in a way that it's pretty hard for that to happen. Like if I'm 9 to 6 at work, cool, covered. If I'm working my freelance, that's like another at least 3 hours a night. And then what's left is like, okay, I have the decision now to set up my things and try to record a song, or I can, play video games, which ends up being a big one. So, I just try to set up so many things that I'm doing that even though I guess I wouldn't say I'm accomplishing any of the hobby ones, the ones that I'm not getting paid for, as high as I'd like, I'm still able to do them and just fall back on them.
Yeah. I mean, you can't do everything to the same degree that you can do. And it's always nice to have some of those hobbies that aren't so high pressure. Like for me, I play hockey.
Oh, cool.
Not well. I play awful. I'm terrible and I'm very short.
Isn't sucking good though? Like, don't you like, I don't know, those first baby steps when you're learning to like draw or like, do hockey or whatever. It's like, man, I'm learning so fast because it's so accessible at the beginning. And that last 10% is like the hardest. Because
every step is, you start out really like that curve is really sharp at first and then it levels off. And like right in the beginning, it's like, oh man, I learned to stop, which was a big one for me at first.
I can't rollerblade, so I'm tapping out of hockey.
Oh man. I do the
terribly.
ice.
Okay. I can ice skate, but I used to skateboard also.
Okay.
So compounding
I could tell.
So I like the way that you pump on a skateboard is the way that I ice skate. So my legs are kind of flailing. My girlfriend looks like I'm going to fall every time I'm going, but I'm like, no, it's technique. It's my secret style.
Here's the age-old question: goofy or regular?
Regular.
All day.
No. All day.
No.
Goofy
all day.
Did you skate then?
I skated not well. I couldn't ollie well, but I could kickflip really high, which was really strange.
Oh.
I don't know how that happened, but I spent all day in a garage kick flipping one day. And then from then on there, I had no problem with it. But ollies, never could get it.
Heel flipping was actually easier for me than skateboarding or than kick flipping, which is super weird. But yeah, actually, funny enough, skateboarding is how I got my start in teaching.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, in 10th grade, my first job of all jobs was like teaching a summer camp. And so it would be like 8 to 13-year-olds, and I was like 15. And so I would just teach them how to skateboard, and that was like my beginning of trying to break things down to people. And you could say it's like influence me today. And
yeah, I'm sure it has though. I feel like that the process of like breaking things down into smaller steps comes into play like that. All right, I'm going to take a quick commercial break because we have sponsors that want little mid-roll ads, right? All right, just so you guys know, this was brought to you by Audible. For you listeners of the Modern Day Podcast, Audible's offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. This always confuses me how to read this because I am really bad with words, and reading is not my forte. I actually just learned how to read the other day. It's been quite a difficult time for me getting through life.
You made it pretty far, I gotta say.
Thank you, dude. I've been going, for an illiterate person, I feel like I've gotten pretty far and have been pretty successful. It was hard getting through college, though. Also, this podcast was brought to you by Skillshare. Use my code my link, skl.sh/moderndayjames. Isn't the production here just so professional? We're so good here.
It is actually pretty dope.
Thank you, man.
You downplay it, but like this is pretty awesome setup.
I love it. It's just a matter of like the wires everywhere. I have not covered up the tripods or anything. I mean, it's so cool though. I love.
It's got
podcasts.
a charm to it.
Thank you, man. Yeah, and my mom told me the other day that I need to stare into the camera, so I've been doing this every once in a while, just pointing out to her. So hi, Mom. I talk to her in every episode. All right, so you're starting up your classes at Brainstorm next semester.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
I'm super excited. I've talked to a couple of my buddies, like Shay Schatz. He taught at both Brainstorm and Art Center, and when I was teaching at Art Center, I talked to him about it, and he was like, what's cool is like the Brainstorm students, the ones that really want it, they like take it to the like 12th degree.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, when you're grading things that are at, a normal college instead of a trade school, they turn in what's required of them, and they always hit the numbers, which is nice, but few students ever try to break above that or take it deeply personal to them and try to make something out of it.
Yeah.
But Brainstorm students, of course, I'm sure some are just going to show up for the demos and, that part. But then there's going to be a couple that are going to really be interested and take it beyond that level.
Yeah, for
what
sure.
I'm excited about.
Are you going to be one of those strict teachers, or are you going to be like a chill teacher that's like, you just do whatever you want?
I like to think I'm a mix of the two, and that I'm horribly strict because I teach every summer actually a high school class for Art Center as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've been teaching for a long time. Like I'd say I've invested more in my teaching career than my actual drawing career at this point. But yeah, I will make an anime reference while I tell you you're terrible. So I think that's
awesome.
That's kind of where I go with it, is really casual in terms of me being a person, because I am, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a hello, welcome to class, but at the same time, if it's trash, it's trash. So.
And that's the thing about art. You can always tell if it's trash. Well, yeah, I find that, like, at least for me, I think I'm not a very disciplinary role. Like, I don't really discipline the students too much. I go in depth with the critiques, but I feel like I need to push them a little bit more. When you're teaching high school, you probably have to be super disciplined with them. How do you do with that?
It's honestly my favorite age group to teach.
Okay.
Because at least the way our class is structured, it's a job for them. It's 9 to 5 every day for their summer, for a whole month. So unlike a week-to-week class, you can catch their errors the day they happen. You can be like, oh, you messed up last night on homework. Let me do this demo so you get it. Instead of like, see you in a week. Hope this works out. And at that age group, at least from my experience, because I also took a pre-college, you figure out what you're capable of, which is something I mentioned earlier. It's like you don't know how good or how hard you can work, because up to that point in your career, school has just been, history class, science class, math class. And now you're like, oh, drawing for 8 hours with people that like drawing, and my homework is to draw. These are all things I could do. And then they start to realize, because each one is kind of, they're like big fish in a small pond kind of thing, where they're each the best artists from their respective schools, and we have people
Okay.
flying from like China, Texas, like all over the world. And then they realize, oh, what, this person is, you know, this level at my same age, and that just really eye opens them. And we make it a really encouraging experience because, you know, I say it's like everyone in this class should, I hope no one ever bullies anyone else in here, because you're all artists, and if we're picking on each other, then like who are we supposed to turn to for love? So
Yeah.
at that age group, they're just able to really push themselves and figure out how powerful drawing is and how much they can do in a night.
That's awesome.
I love it.
Yeah, that's great, man. And it's obviously, like, once you get into teaching at Brainstorm, you're going to have a really good foundation for that. I feel that the discipline part is the hardest. I always want to be so nice to everybody, or like, I'm pretty honest with the critiques, but I don't want to. I just have so much trouble disciplining them, and that's why none of them hand in their homework.
Ooh,
Guys.
called out, shots.
Yeah, where is your homework, Willie? No excuses. Don't blame me for not putting
First
up the homework.
name, damn.
That's okay. He knows what's up. So
I'm sure his follower count's gonna go up just from that name drop.
hopefully. So where do you want to go with art? Like, what's your main aspiration, do you think?
You know, right now for me, it's a lot of my personal work is what I'm investing in. Like career wise, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at and kind of like the level of work I'm doing. So
Yeah.
I'm content to keep that where it's at and obviously improve it. But what I've been trying to do is get into animation stuff a little bit. Like I
Cool.
said, that's stuff that I was initially into really heavy and then got betrayed by. But so now I'm doing that kind of in my own time. So when I have a second to try to, you know, copy some storyboards and try to understand what they're able to do, because that's like a
Yeah.
whole nother realm of art.
It's
like
so completely different. I mean,
things that move
yeah.
is crazy.
I've been trying to do a little bit of animation myself, and it is so difficult. It is so completely different. Now, do you see yourself in the future putting out an anime or something like that?
I mean, by age, there's this crazy, like, I think,
Yeah, run me down.
trajectory wise,
Yeah.
I'd love to at some point. And I think I'm I'm trying to start, you know, really small, you know,
Yeah.
3-minute short would be ambitious enough for now. But, then you like find out certain things, like the guy that directed Gurren Lagann wasn't that older than, like, much older than me. And I was like, and like the guy that did all the art for Metal Gear Solid was 26.
But now you're upset. You're doing the same thing that you tell your students not to do. Don't compare yourself. just age doesn't matter. You'll get
For
there.
sure.
You'll get there.
But yeah, I'm just trying to do that in between. And because I definitely think there's, at least in the friendships like I've formed in this concept art industry, a lot of it's very, you know, gritty and very real. And so I kind of want to show people that there's a mix of the two. I think, like, to be able to, I want to make essentially like really cute anime boys. Like, it's gonna be, I'm kind of thinking I'm gonna make something like Sailor Moon but boys, except they go into mecha.
Okay, cool.
And so, like, I kind of want to show, you know, these boys in short shorts that go into these giant, large mecha that fight, and that's currently the pitch I'm working.
So you have the whole thing planned out. It seems like.
I've got 9 plans. Hopefully, one of them goes somewhere.
Awesome. Yeah, that's super cool. I mean, it's cool that you're doing both, and I think the stuff that you do for designing will help influence your anime or help influence your animation. Do you think animation is kind of your primary trajectory over the long term, or do you think you want to stick more to design?
You know, that's the thing. I'm like, it's so nonsensical for me to want to keep this a hobby, like, because eventually, like, you know, you should monetize or you should share and like build up its hype. But I'm like, currently my mindset is like, I'm cool if just me and my 5 closest friends see this sketchbook, and if anyone else wants to see it, you know, for sure. But I'm very cool with it just dying with me.
Okay.
Honestly. But I'd love for it to actually go somewhere, would be cool too.
Awesome.
But then it gets so complicated. Like, one of the scariest things to me was growing up, and like my career trajectory when I was in college was like, I'm gonna become an art director, then I'm gonna start my own studio, and it's gonna be like 6 people at the head, and we're gonna be able to create, you know, books, animation, whatever we want to do. And there's some studios doing that, like GadgetBot, and like now what do you call it, Pitch Dev Studios. I don't know if you heard about them. Like, there's some studios getting into that. But seeing my friends that became art directors and later started their own companies, like, it's so restrictive. You know, I'm like, you still are like keeping the creativity alive, but it's a lot harder for them when so much of it is meetings and so much of it is compromising based off, you know, price and stuff like that. So I'm kind of scared of ever taking it into my career, because then I have to compromise. then I have to work with people. And
I think what ends up happening if you do things for yourself or you do things just purely out of love, I personally think they come out as a better product.
Yeah. And just take longer.
Yeah, they're going to take longer for sure. But I think if you keep putting in the time to it, it could become something that's professional just by you doing it, you know?
Yeah.
Somebody will see that and, you know, there'll be some monetary value to it.
Are you cooking anything in the pot secretly?
I'm working on that animation as well. I have I'm just like I have this weird plan where I'm like I'm gonna max out on most of my fundamentals. So I'm starting out with I did all the perspective stuff and I feel really good about it. Now I have my sketchbook over here. I'm just trying to do poses straight from imagination in pen without any like underdrawing. So I'm trying to get that like sort of Kim Jong-gi mindset, and then I want to turn that into animation. So I'm trying to do pretty much all of those things, but I have no specific plans yet. So I'm just in that phase. And I did it with music too, where I just kind of like spent 4 or 5 years working on those fundamentals, and then from there just only going into writing music.
Yeah.
And I kind of have the same idea where I'm going to like max out on fundamentals and then just go straight for animation and design and stuff and see where it takes me.
I will say, important note right there, everyone listening, what he just said is the way you talked about how you compared it to your music. I think it's really important for artists to have more hobbies than just drawing. Personally, I know some people can just draw and that's all they need, but I think it really helps to be able to be like, well, I did this with music once in my life, so I can do it now with animation, and it like makes it seem way more feasible. And you know, we've all from ages 1 to 5, we all learned to like walk and talk. So if we can do that in 5 years, you know, we got 5 years. We can do something comparable. Exactly. We can animate.
Honestly, that's been the thing that has been pushing me through all of my my process so far, my career so far has just been like, okay, I did it once with music, I'm gonna do it again with this. But what you said about having other hobbies, I think is so important because for me at least, I've found that you need to have something to just turn that off, turn off that art, because otherwise you'll go to bed at night and you'll still be thinking about it. You're like, oh, those cubes weren't right. Those textures were crappy or something like that, you know?
And I was like that at one point in my life, and I'm sure you were too, where, you know, when you do get art is the only thing that matters and you get one bad note, suddenly that like note is the only thing you've got. It's like, wait, so I thought about art for 7 days, I got this bad note and I can't turn anywhere to process it. And like, it's, you know, like when we sleep, we make decisions secretly behind the doors. I think having a hobby is kind of like that. It lets us process the information so it doesn't destroy us.
Yeah. Oh, my friend Kirk in the chat just mentioned something that I wanted to bring up. So my drummer used to use this term he called the master threshold, which is when you're like maximum level on your fundamentals, which I always thought was the funniest thing because it sounds like something an evil villain would say, like, we've reached the master threshold. And Eddie, if you're listening now, I am telling everybody about the master threshold. So that's kind of what I want to reach in terms of fundamentals. But yeah, you know, you have to have that balance. I mean, I remember I used to do like 18 hours a day of drawing, and, you know, I'd stay up like till 7 a.m. the next day. And I think it ended up shooting myself in the foot a little bit because I was, you know, so tired. I was just completely exhausted the next day. Did you find yourself doing similar things when you were
I've meant that one job I keep going back to out of college that I took, it was like, after that I didn't work for probably like 3 months. Like, other than for myself. At that point I did start, actually music was thankfully a thing I could turn to, and Overwatch. Those were the nice. 2 big things. But you know, I was like staying at home all day, and it was pretty bad, man. I didn't enjoy, after burning out that hard, like art being the only thing I cared about for so long. And like compound that with school, compound that with going straight out of high school. It was like 8 years of buildup of me just grinding at art, to the point where it broke for a little bit, which sucks. I don't want anyone to ever have to break like that. And maybe it's necessary. Some people, it's like,
I think it is.
Yeah, it's like Whiplash. Have you seen that movie?
Yep.
Like, it's like, is this necessary? It's worth it, but like, it's always a conflict. I'm not sure like where I still fall on that. Like, because obviously if you have a bad experience, I feel like most people push past it and grow from it. But is it worth losing like the small amount of people that do get burnt off it? Yeah, I don't know where I fall on that.
Yeah, man. So do you have any advice for younger students that are trying to come up and become professionals?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, watch his YouTube channel and his gum roads.
Yes,
and,
do it. Buy them.
No, but in all seriousness, it's like the fundamentals, which is what's awesome, is that you focus on that. Is you know, we've been talking about music a little bit, but you had to like learn a power chord before you could shred, essentially.
Exactly.
So, I played Green Day at the beginning. You know, I didn't even like Green Day that much.
That's why I started. I wanted to be Billy Joe so bad. I was like,
those songs were catchy and fun and easy to play. And I feel like that builds your fundamentals. Like, of course, I feel like every artist is going to draw what they want at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I would say go out of your way to force yourself to do the less fun parts, because they're going to make you better at doing the fun parts. So just slowing down and actually thinking about what you're drawing, and also not to hop on every trend, because some people do that, and it ends up burning them out because they rely on it if it's too early in the career. Like once you're 5 years in, you can do photo bashing for a couple months, and then you can jump to 3D and do whatever else you want. But I feel like some early students skip over that, and then they end up trapped in like, I don't know how to do anything else, and the trend has moved on.
Yeah. And I feel like, especially nowadays I was talking to Aton 2 weeks ago, and everything that they do is so foreign to me. Like there's all these new techniques, or photo bashing, 3D, like all these new 3D programs, and it's constantly moving forward. But if you have a good, strong foundation, I feel like you can kind of just pick up those new skills a little bit easier.
Yeah, I mean, for my Inktober's this year, what I did is actually a lot of it's done in 3D, and I ran it through a line generator cell shading like thing that they have, and then I would just draw over that. And they look pretty convincing as far as like drawings go, and that was kind of my goal, because I always feel like challenging myself. But what's great is like my pen drawings literally look the same. Yeah. So I'm just like, cool, I've understood pen drawing well enough that I can make a model look like a pen drawing.
Awesome.
So yeah, for sure. I think it's like you were mentioning, it's a boiling pot. If a 3D or photo, whatever comes in the end, it's just one image. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So how do you work on, like, I looked at a lot of your work, and it's all this really awesome mechanical hard surface stuff. How do you build up that visual library?
Just lots of nerding out about hardware. For me, I try to make mine a little more fantastical. So I know mine has a little less logic. I mentioned Gurren Lagann, the designer of that. Yo Yoshinari, he's like my favorite artist of all time. He designed all the mechs in that show, and there's over 30 of them. So
yeah,
that was an immense visual library. I literally have like almost every art book from that show, and every drawing that they did for it. It's the most expensive thing I ever bought, but the Blu-ray collection of that show was like $600.
Holy
and
crap.
I was like, it's all in Japanese, but it's got drawings in it. So I bought that, and it's got just immense knowledge that he has, and of how to put things together in a fantastical but believable way.
Okay.
But so that's where I try to draw from now. But while I was learning, I went to a tank museum a lot. I forgot where it is, but it's kind of around here.
Yeah, I went. It's awesome.
Yeah, so I took as many pictures every time I go to a place, so that I don't have to go to them every time I want to draw. But just lots of studying, and you kind of start to, at least for me, with also the animation knowledge, I think of it in shapes first, and kind of just scribble in dark pencil lines where the mechanical parts are going to go, to get something iconic. And then from there, you just have to kind of figure out what the spaghetti scribbles you just drew could actually be.
Yeah.
And that just takes a little bit of thinking. And I'm also a huge toy, like anime figure collector. So there's a lot of like Revoltech and Figma things that they have joints that I study those a lot. And so I draw my hardware a lot like how a figure is put together in terms of its engineering.
Okay, that's super cool. I used to have so much trouble with that, because I'd focus so much on the tiny details that weren't as important.
It's all just noise.
Yeah, exactly. Do you find that, and you mentioned the tank museum, do you go study from real life a lot? Probably less so now because you're working, but did you find that when you were learning that helped a lot going and
For sure. It was another like teacher student experience. One of my teachers mentioned the tank museum, and he just mentioned it in an offhand offhand note. And then we were designing tanks. Me and a couple kids went as a group, and we all turned in our homework, and ours looked like way higher quality because we actually knew what was happening.
Yeah.
And so it was just like a nugget of knowledge that the teacher threw out that most students didn't pick up on, and we took that extra step to really emphasize what was happening. And so we looked at it, and yeah, for sure, drawing from life is completely different from the internet, because the internet's just one angle. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Honestly, I think looking at a tank in real life is better than 30 photos of a tank, because when you walk around and you see the way, how much depth those parts of a tank have, it's just completely different.
I also think there's something really weird that VR actually captures it really well, but there's that peripheral vision and that size, and it's hard to capture that in a photograph. It doesn't really resemble seeing something in your peripheral vision, or how it distorts as it goes like towards the side of your vision. And when you go there in person, it is so completely different. And I had this experience. I went to the Met in New York City, and they had they have this armor room where it's like medieval armor, weapons, these horses that are all armored up, and it's the most badass thing ever. You got to go there. It's super cool. And I remember I was like, holy fuck, I just stepped into Dark Souls. And it was the most like visceral experience. I was like, I was sweating. I was like, oh my God, babe. My girlfriend was with me. I wasn't talking to you that way.
You can call me babe anytime.
Come on, babe. I was like, this is the best thing I've ever done. It was so cool. And I don't think you get that experience just from looking at a photo. You have to go there and be in it.
Yeah, it's like steps watered down. Like real life is the best thing. I feel a book is still better than the internet.
Yep.
Unfortunately, of course, there's less resources in a book, but I try to like have whatever I'm working on, whatever bar I'm hitting, or if I'm drawing a tank, some book where there's some tank thing I'll have open on my desk. Like if you look at my desk at any given time, you can actually probably put together what I'm working on.
Awesome.
Because like reference is just so important, and being able to look at it and understand it is completely different than just faking it.
Yeah, and having the reference library in books is so much better. I have a whole bookshelf back there, and it's so much nicer to be able to just flip through pages. Partially because you have a little bit of a limit to it, so you don't end up in like a Pinterest loop.
Click.
Yeah, you end up in like this Pinterest loop where you're like clicking just pages to pages. This is such a mess. Yeah, I mean, for work, where do you get most of your references? Do you use a lot of books? You said.
Yeah. Okay. Thankfully, I said I do theme park, and what we do is actually kind of the visualization of the ride, not so much the how tall does this thing have to be so that someone doesn't die on day one. We get to kind of do the more imagery that you see along the way. It's a lot of it's reference. And then thankfully we have an art director that's really knowledgeable and has been in the industry for long enough to also know that how not to kill someone part of it, and mix that in with our knowledge of how to make something creative.
Awesome. Yeah, that's super cool. I mean, that seems so foreign to me, but yeah, I mean, your designs are something that are going to become real life rides, and have you ever had any of your designs turn into rides? And
so far, it's such a slow process, honestly. Yeah. Like, I worked on this How to Train Your Dragon ride while I was still in college, and it just opened like 6 months ago.
Oh man, but that's so cool though.
Junior year. It is. They cut one of my scenes though, and I'll never forgive them for that. But the other one's still in there. But yeah, so it's a really slow process, but it's in Dubai, so I can't even ride it.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm currently working on a couple things that are being developed in stateside, but
okay.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
I was like, oh man, it must have been the best experience when you got to see your ride.
But from a 480p with like some dude talking over it the whole time.
God damn.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to go there and actually experience it. You'll take a field trip to Dubai one day.
Business trip, I had to do market research.
That's awesome. All right, so what video games are you playing? What are you doing to relax? Because you seem like a workaholic from what I can tell, which is awesome, super cool. But how do you relax? How are you chilling? How are you taking your mind out of that art world?
Okay, the best thing I've done this year, and I got a gym membership.
Oh, good.
And this gym membership has allowed me to watch so much anime because I'm not a big fan of dubs, but
okay.
If I can be on my elliptical for 40 minutes straight so that I can watch 2 episodes of a show and then be like, I got to see the next 20 minutes and, hit some weights while I, watch the Fate series, which is what I'm currently watching.
I must say that must be the most obscure promotion for a gym. Get a gym membership here. You can watch all the anime that you want to see.
The most strategic decision I've made this year, because I'm like, because that was my whole thing is I'm very bad at sitting still and like, watching a subtitle thing for 30 minutes at home while I'm on a couch going like this. I'm like, I feel bad. I feel guilty. I feel like I'm letting my body die.
Yeah.
But I kind of knocked 2 parts out of my life in one. But other than that, video games, Cuphead.
Oh yeah. I forgot to mention that. Cuphead
beat it on S rank, beat it on passive mode. Got all the, got everything. Looking forward to the DLC. I love that game. It's the best thing I've played in a long time. But I also 100% completed Breath of the Wild. I like focus on one game. Yeah, good. I find one, I go all in on it. But other than that, I'm looking forward to Smash Brothers. Actually,
Yes.
My brother plays competitive Melee still.
Oh
so.
shit! Yeah. All right. So let's talk about this for just a moment.
Now the real podcast begins.
Yeah. All right. So competitive Melee. Tell us about your brother for a little bit here.
All right. He's not that good yet, but like we said, we like sucking at stuff so we can grow. But he's been starting to win some money matches and local tournaments and stuff like that.
Awesome.
He's always ranked along the bottom, but he's like the best of the worst people right now.
Very cool.
I can play Melee well enough, but my like Smash is Smash 4. That's the one that I play the most.
Yeah.
And I play Marth and Ike and any other Fire Emblem hero. So tying it all together, Dope. Fire Emblem. I drew them, now I play them.
There you go.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about trying to get into the competitive scene for Smash 5, or the one coming out in December. And my brother wants to do teams with me, but I'm like, oh man, that means I won't have time to do all the other stuff I'm doing.
But you see, the issue with anything that's not Melee is that you can't wave dash in any of those.
I can't wave dash regardless, so I'm trash.
That's a shame. Can I just mention that I did have the opportunity to get whooped by Mewtwo King.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, I did. My friend Connor Fitzpatrick, shout out to Connor. He was absolutely amazing. Super good Fox player. He goes by Fitz. They like flew him out to Sacramento to do some tournament. He's so good. And yeah, I remember he brought me to a couple tournaments, and he's light years beyond where I am. And we were doing doubles, and every time I would just like absolutely fuck up the match and ruin it for him. He'd be like it would be 1 versus 2 basically the whole time, and he would get them both down to like 1 stock, or he'd kill him. It was a mess. Have you done any like tournaments like that or anything?
I've done some small ones because I did art for some Smash shows, and so I would enter because I was like already there, and they were like, "Hey, you did art for it, so you might as well free entry." I'm like, "All right."
Awesome.
I entered one Melee one, and actually I didn't do that bad in it, to be honest, because it was around when Smash 4 came out, so there was a lot of new player base. And because I guess I play like a lot of harder games, I was I'm good for someone who doesn't play the game, which means I'm still trash, but
that's okay.
I still held my own against a couple different people and made it at least 3 rounds in before I got knocked out. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun, but it's also long days.
Yeah, I'm sure. And the competitive game scene is so crazy. Like they have the level of commitment that we have for art, but with video games. And it is practice. It's so weird to me that it's gotten to this point. Like thinking back when I was young and I was like maybe embarrassed about playing video games, or when I was in high school, like I didn't really talk about it very much. And now like there's Ninja, he's like the world's biggest video game streamer. They're in commercials. They're playing with Drake.
Man, he's on my Twitter all the time. I'm like, I get it. You were on Ellen, man.
It's so fucking crazy, but I love it. I love it. I think it's
now
great.
Overwatch League has like minors entering and stuff like that they're like, yeah, we'll let him do a school thing, but also he's gonna be doing this as well.
Yeah, I want to join that college team for like competitive games for esports. They have like a couple universities are doing or not sponsorships. They're doing what the hell is it called when you get a scholarships? Yeah, they're doing sponsorships. They're doing scholarships.
Sponsorships? What? Audible? Huh?
Sponsorships? Huh? Yeah, they're doing scholarships for esports players, which I think is crazy because I used to play StarCraft 2 like a motherfucker. Where's my scholarships? Where's my scholarship, Stony Brook? I don't know where it is, dude. I'm upset. But yeah, Overwatch is pretty badass. I haven't played too much of it, but I really do like the game, and obviously the design is crazy.
Yeah. For me, at this point, it's like there's a specific friend I made through it. Like we go to see every Star Wars movie together. So as many Star Wars movies have come out in the last 3 years as how many times I've seen them in person. But we play at least once a week where we just catch up on each other's lives and we play for 2 hours. So it's kind of more like a hangout thing at this point for me.
Oh, that's cool. That's interesting too. I feel like people usually don't interact with other people from the internet in a friendly way.
Yeah, so it's for sure. We go to like team chat for a second, and like he's gay, and so we're like in team chat for like a second, and we're like, okay, we've each been slurred 3 times. We'll tap out at 5. All right. We made it through. We won. But yeah.
Oh man. I have a question.
Go for it.
Do you play Magic the Gathering?
I don't. I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh guy.
Oh,
sorry.
no.
You fall on one side of the quarter, and I fell on the one that said it's time to duel. So.
Oh my lord. Oh my lord. Yeah. We went to Cynics and I went to this place in Orange County that's like all these. It's like old video games. These relics. It's this whole like anime, just wall to wall.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this giant warehouse of all this stuff from just Nostalgia Central. And there is a place called the Magic Corner, and then there's the Yu-Gi-Oh corner.
Oof.
And it felt like just a rivalry as soon as I walked into it. It's pretty crazy.
I definitely feel like I hopped on the wrong train, because everyone I know plays Magic. Like people at my office, they're like, oh yeah, this new card got released. And I'm like, you guys ever watch Yu-Gi-Oh? I watched all 5 seasons and read the manga. Did anyone else do that? No, just me.
No, because Magic is just a better game, and the illustrations are way better.
Sure.
I'm calling you Yu-Gi-Oh guys out. Whoever's making those cards, you guys need to take a cue from Magic the Gathering and get on that shit. I don't know what you're doing.
Look, man, I'm gonna be the first concept artist to get on a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Oh, shit.
I'm gonna revolutionize it. The change is happening today.
I hope so. I hope so.
No, yeah, those Magic card arts are amazing.
They're so fucking crazy. Yeah, that's another goal of mine that I want to do. I want to get into Magic, but I also want to do it with oil painting.
Ooh, traditional.
Which is crazy.
Do you have any other crazy goals? Like, is there a dream company or like just dream partnership you'd love to do?
I don't know. I'm so like, I love being self-employed.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of just want to take my YouTube channel and bring that as like my main platform, and then just do a bunch of like side projects off of that. So like I'll do an animation, maybe like an animated series, maybe do some more fine art where I paint, and then I still want to play music. So it's just like I have this like creative ADD where I'm always just jumping back and forth and doing random stuff. And it seems like you kind of have that a little bit as well. I see a lot of myself in you as well.
Yeah, I was like, when I watched your podcast with Robert and you were talking about, or Cynics, and he mentioned you were short. I'm like, he's tall. I bet that means we're about the same height. I'm like, I wonder, is there something about like guys that get into metal and Scribo that like we have to be under 5'8" or something?
There is.
You must be this short to be into hardcore music.
The thing is, it's like it's like a Napoleon complex where we're short, so we have to play really tough music.
Yeah.
So it's like
compensate.
Yeah, exactly. No, I love it though. I think there is some truth to that. Like when I first got into metal, nowadays I just play it because I love it. But when I first got into it, I was like, yeah, I'm so tough right now. I'm listening to metal. And then gradually I still feel that way. And then I just listen to like heavier and heavier and grosser music. I feel like my taste in music just gets worse and worse every year. Like it just degenerates into less actual notes, more atonal, less like more polyrhythms and weird nonsense and just like anger. It's for
sure. Yeah. When I mentioned Polyphia or Polyphia, I don't know how to pronounce it, but
Polyphia, I think is
when I mentioned them, I'm like, yeah, so if you like them, then you like the music that's being made for musicians, not for like, but there's such a truth to that. Cause honestly, the first Screamo song I got into was like Under Oath. And I thought it was kind of funny when I listened to it. And so it's like, haha, it'll be my morning alarm. Haha, it'll wake me up because he's screaming. But then I was like, this is actually pretty good.
This is actually badass.
Started getting my My Chemical Romance on and step by step,
going to Warped Tour.
Yeah. But nowadays I get into, I think what's cool about rap is it's a lot more inventive. I feel like metal and hardcore music, at least from what I've gleaned, is like kind of stagnated a little bit. Yeah,
I was about to say that exact word. It is a little bit stagnant. Yeah. Rap is definitely doing some cool stuff. I'm not huge into it, but I do love Run the Jewels. That's like they're my shit in terms of rap.
Listen to Denzel Curry's Vengeance.
Okay.
Listen to that song. And he went to my high school, clout chasing. But no, he's amazing. And some of his songs bring the exact aggression that I felt I got from hardcore music. So.
Yeah. I'm noticing that too with a lot of heavy, like with rap and stuff, is that it's blending a lot with metal and hardcore where they're kind of meeting somewhere in the middle recently, and that's the kind of stuff that I like.
Yeah, I think genre blending is just super cool, and it's something that's like starting to happen more in the internet age, where you have movies that it's like, it's a comedy, but it made me feel super sad, and it's also this and that, and I think that's a lot of the stuff I like, which is kind of why I want to do my anime boy but mech show, because it's just so many contrasts put into one baggage.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, badass. We've been going for a pretty long time. I'm going to do one last plug, and then I'm going to ask you for some final words. But before we do that, just so you listeners, you newbies know, this whole thing was brought to you by Audible. I don't know if most people end on plugs. I don't know why I'm doing this, but use that audibletrial.com/moderndayjames, the Skillshare, and sign up on Patreon, guys. It's badass. It's great. We have so many good things. And sign up for both of our classes. Right? Shouldn't they sign up for our classes?
Yes, they definitely should, because it's going to be a good time. And you can take, what's awesome, you can take his from anywhere in the world. It's online.
That's true.
Follow a link and suddenly you get all the knowledge of James at your disposal.
I set you up for that because I wanted you to be my wingman. I wanted you to plug me so I didn't have to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Shameless. You just, that's what friends are for.
Exactly. Yeah. And take Scott's awesome fucking classes. They're going to be great. His work is super cool. That's partially why I just like, you messaged me, or one of us messaged each other. I was just like, oh, you got to come on now.
Yeah. I definitely take a lot of pride in my low follower count, but please feel free to follow to my Instagram.
Yeah, guys, go follow him. What the fuck?
It was really funny. I did this thing called Digital Art Battles.
Yeah.
That's where I actually met Robert, and like Ahmed and I have been friends for like 6, maybe 5 years now, but they both showed up to that, and it was really funny because I was like, talking to everyone and like the people that even got out pretty early into it, and I was like, man, you guys are really good at social media. That's like a whole nother skill. That's the skill that I haven't been saving enough time for.
It's not too hard. I'll you just got to do a little bit of clickbait here and there, and then and then you end up with some followers. It's not so bad. Like if you have the art for it, so it's not much of a step after that. In fact, like the art you have is so badass that as soon as people see it, they're gonna be like, okay, I'll follow. That's about it. So yeah, dude, thank you so much for coming on. It was an honor to have you on. I really appreciate it. Can't wait for your classes. Unfortunately, I'm moving back to the East Coast, so I can't sit in on them. But if you are ever in the East Coast or on the East Coast, you always have a place to stay.
Yeah. My girlfriend, like, she went to college there, so we go there sometimes. So yeah.
Awesome. We'll have to hang out. We'll have to play some music.
For sure.
All right, dude. Thanks so much for coming on. For everybody else who's watching and listening, thank you so much. Be sure to check this out on iTunes and Spotify. And thank you to my guest, Scott. We will talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching, everybody. Peace out.
Bye. Thanks,
Oh, wait,
James.
we're on that camera. Later, everybody. Bye, Mom.